1. Approval is a form of spiritual slavery. In every desire for applause, every hunger for praise, and every silent wish to be seen and validated, there lies a dangerous surrender, a surrender of your inner autonomy, a quiet betrayal of your freedom. Epictetus warned us plainly, as long as you seek approval, you are their slave. When your worth is outsourced to the opinions of others, you no longer own yourself. You give up control. You become a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Every compliment lifts you. Every criticism crushes you. Your peace of mind becomes collateral, traded for something as unstable as public opinion. The Stoic does not reject recognition out of arrogance, but out of clarity. They understand that to live in constant pursuit of external approval is to become spiritually weak, because you're always at the mercy of what others feel or say. And those others? They're often too preoccupied with themselves to truly notice you. Marcus Aurelius, who had more attention than most humans in history, saw through the illusion. How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks. How much of your energy is lost in wondering if they noticed you, liked you, admired you? How much of your day is wasted performing instead of living? The paradox is brutal. The more you crave being seen, the more invisible you become to yourself. You stop doing what is right and begin doing what is popular. You start adjusting not your principles, but your posture, trying to appear a certain way instead of being someone real. Slowly, you disappear from your own life. Freedom begins when you stop asking for permission to exist. Seneca cut deeper still. What matters most is not what the crowd thinks, but what you think when you're alone. Because when the applause fades, and it always fades, what remains? Your conscience, your integrity, your truth. If those things have been traded for recognition, then you've lost more than you gained. Seeking approval is a subtle form of imprisonment. You lock yourself in a cell whose key is in someone else's pocket. And the tragedy is the people whose approval you chase, they are often just as insecure, just as confused, and just as caught up in chasing someone else's validation. The Stoic path is not antisocial, it is anti-dependence. It asks you to stand firm in your values, whether people celebrate them or not. It asks you to live well even if no one notices, to act with virtue even when the audience has left the room. Recognition may come, or it may not, but it must never be the reason, because if you start living for it, you will soon start dying without it. So stop asking, do they like me? Start asking, do I respect myself for how I showed up today? Stop wondering, did they see me? Start declaring, I showed up fully, regardless of who was watching. The Stoic frees themselves by returning to their own judgment, not in arrogance, but in sovereignty. They no longer need someone to say, you are enough, because they've already decided they are. And that decision, that is the beginning of real power. 2. Freedom begins when you no longer need to be seen. There is a kind of liberation that begins the moment you no longer require the world to acknowledge you. The moment you stop needing the spotlight, the applause, the nod of approval, that is when your spirit begins to stand upright. That is when you start living, not as a reflection of others' opinions, but as an embodiment of your own truth. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." As long as you crave recognition, you are giving others a say over your emotional state. Their gaze lifts or crushes you. Their silence unsettles you. You become a prisoner, not of chains, but of your own longing to be seen. True Stoic strength lies in this, to act rightly even when no one is watching, because you are always watching yourself. The Stoic understands that moral clarity doesn't require confirmation. You don't need someone to say, yes, that was good, for it to be good. If you know something is right, then do it. And if you only do it to be noticed, then it is not virtue. It is vanity dressed as virtue. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who could have demanded attention at every step, chose the path of humble integrity instead. He advised, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This is not just a call to action, it's a call to invisibility, a call to find peace in doing what is right, not because it will be seen, but because it should be done. When you crave to be recognized for doing good, the act is no longer pure, it becomes a performance. But real virtue, like a flame in the night, does not ask to be admired. It simply burns. Doing the right thing when no one is looking is not a lesser act. It is the highest form of integrity. It is a declaration that your values are not for sale, not for display, and not dependent on the spotlight. Seneca, too, we knew the danger of letting the crowd determine your worth. He who follows the crowd will never go beyond it. The crowd rarely thinks deeply. It changes its mind quickly. It judges on impulse, not insight. To live by the crowd is to build your house on moving sand. And worse, to live in fear of its rejection is to lose your center entirely. The Stoic chooses the path of solitude over the chaos of consensus, not because they hate people, but because they love truth more. To not need recognition is to stand tall while the world looks elsewhere. It's to plant your feet on firm moral ground, even when no one else is applauding, even when no one is looking. Because the point was never to be seen, the point was to be whole. There's a quiet dignity in those who live without the need to be noticed. They are free in the most profound sense. Their actions speak not to an audience, but to their soul. So ask yourself, would you still be kind if no one ever thanked you? Would you still be honest if no one praised your integrity? Would you still pursue excellence if no one recognized your effort? If the answer is yes, then you are already free. And if not, that's the place to begin. Because true freedom doesn't come from being seen. It comes from not needing to be. 3. Reputation is a trap of the false self. There is no prison more deceptive than the applause of the crowd. Praise feels like freedom, but in truth, it shackles the soul to something fragile and fleeting. Reputation to the Stoic is not an asset. It is a liability when mistaken for identity. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, real growth often demands walking through ridicule. If you constantly measure your worth by the opinions of others, you will never live truthfully, only theatrically. You become an actor in a role the world has cast for you. Your gestures, your decisions, even your silences, all calibrated to be palatable, acceptable, and likable. But the price for such approval is steep. You give away the right to be real. You suppress your convictions in favor of consensus. The self that the world applauds is not your true self, but a curated mask, one that fits their expectations, not your principles. The Stoic rejects this performance, not out of arrogance, but out of fidelity to something deeper, the voice of reason and virtue that resides within. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the known world, saw through the illusion of legacy. He said, "Soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world will have forgotten you." This is not a pessimistic view. It is a liberation. It strips away the illusion that fame, recognition, or validation have any lasting value. What, after all, is the point of being remembered by strangers whose names you do not know and whose opinions are subject to the decay of time? One generation's idol becomes the next's irrelevance. Fame dies not with disgrace, but with neglect. The wise do not chase recognition because they know that eternity is not found in applause. It is found in alignment with nature, with virtue, with the inner logos. The Stoic does not seek to be remembered, only to be just. Even Seneca, whose writings gained popularity among Rome's elite, warned against trusting the public's affection. Public opinion is an ever-changing tide. Tie yourself to virtue, not to applause. The same crowd that praises you today may condemn you tomorrow. Why then would you ground your identity in such volatility? He who lives by praise must also die by scorn. One misstep, one unpopular choice, and the very hands that once clapped for you now point fingers. If your sense of self was built on applause, you'll find yourself adrift the moment it stops. Reputation is nothing more than shadow, and the Stoic does not chase shadows. Instead, he grounds himself in that which is immune to fashion and untouched by rumor, his own reasoned will. When you let go of reputation, you return to substance. You stop performing and start living. You stop seeking approval and start acting in accordance with what is right. You stop asking, "What will they think of me?" and begin asking, "Is this aligned with the kind of person I strive to be?" The world will always try to define you. The wise, however, define themselves, and not in terms of how loudly they are cheered, but by how honestly they live. So walk away from the stage. Let the audience wonder. Let the noise continue without you. In the silence of obscurity, you will hear your true self again, and that voice, quiet, unwavering, anchored, is worth infinitely more than any round of applause. 4. Live by reason, not by reaction. In a world of emotional turbulence and constant noise, the Stoic stands still, not out of apathy, but out of clarity. He does not chase applause, nor does he tremble before judgment. His compass is not the crowd, but reason. He is guided not by reaction, but by understanding. Epictetus, once a slave and later a teacher of emperors, gave perhaps the most empowering insight of all. No one can harm you unless you allow it. Your reason is your fortress. While others live on edge, responding to opinions, insults, praise, and slights with instinct and emotion, the Stoic turns inward. His first question is not, "What do they think of me?" but "Is this action in accordance with reason?" This is not coldness. It is control. When you live by reason, you reclaim your agency. You stop letting others dictate your state of mind. You stop being pulled in every direction by every comment like a leaf in the wind. Instead, you become a rooted tree, strong, still, nourished by principle rather than praise. The power of such a mindset lies in its unshakability. The Stoic may face chaos, but he remains composed. He may be criticized, but he is not dismantled. He may lose status, yet he never loses himself. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote to himself, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved and unshaken." This is not a metaphor for resistance out of pride, but strength born from self-awareness. A person who lives in accordance with their principles does not require external validation. They do not need the world to notice their integrity for it to exist. Like a spring that flows whether or not anyone drinks from it, the Stoic lives rightly, not for display, but from conviction. True peace, then, is not the absence of noise, but the irrelevance of it. The Stoic hears the world's opinions and lets them pass. He sees others chase recognition and chooses restraint. His actions are aligned with reason, and that is enough. Seneca, the philosopher of paradoxes, a man of wealth who preached detachment, a statesman who embraced solitude, put it simply, you do not need to look upward for worth, nor outward for confirmation. The wise man walks upright, not in arrogance, but in truth. He does not bow his head to seek validation, nor raise his eyes in search of approval. He looks inward into the domain where no applause can reach, but where all judgment truly matters, his own. To live this way is not to shut the world out, but to position it properly. You do not deny others their opinions. You simply refuse to let them become your master. You do not ignore the storms. You learn to remain still in the center of them. Reaction is the default state of the undisciplined mind. It is a life of constant negotiation with external forces. One insult can ruin your day. One compliment can inflate your ego. You are a puppet, and the strings are pulled by random hands. Reason, by contrast, is a shield. It allows you to pause, to think, to ask, is this worth my peace? Does this align with my values? Am I acting out of principle or impulse? The one who lives by reaction is a prisoner. The one who lives by reason is free. So be the still point in the spinning world. Be the calm in the noise. Be the one who does not flinch, because you do not pretend. Let others perform. You walk your path. Let others react. You respond with reason. In doing so, you will not only protect your peace, you will embody the very freedom Stoicism was meant to give. 5. Tranquility is not indifference, but awakening. The Stoic is often misunderstood. To many, tranquility looks like detachment, a cold, distant posture, a refusal to care. But this is a misreading. True inner peace, ataraxia, is not indifference. It is awareness. It is presence. It is choosing what to care about and how deeply. Tranquility is not about not caring. It's about caring correctly. The Stoic does not shut themselves off from the world. They are not cynical or cold. They love. They serve. They contribute. But they do not depend on the world's approval for their sense of self. They are not hostile to society, but they are free from its grip. This distinction is vital. The Stoic understands that applause is cheap and attention is fleeting. They don't pursue praise as if it were food for the soul, because it's not. They live by this inner principle: do what is right, whether or not it is recognized. This is not apathy, it is alignment. It is choosing not to be ruled by emotional tides. It is the power to give without clinging, to serve without self-promotion, and to speak truth without needing to be liked for it. The Stoic walks through the world not above it, but not enslaved by it either. The tranquil person doesn't hide from the world, they just don't depend on its gaze. Tranquility doesn't require solitude. It requires sovereignty. You can live in the city square, shoulder to shoulder with noise and chaos, and still be at peace. Because your mind is not stationed in the applause. You are not imprisoned by opinions. You are not inflated by praise, nor deflated by criticism. You move from the inside out, not from the outside in. Your compass is internal. This is the essence of freedom. It is the ability to act not because someone tells you to, or because they'll approve, but because it is right. Many confuse the Stoic ideal with escapism. But in truth, the Stoic doesn't run from the world. They simply refuse to let it define them. They don't seek the stage, but they are unafraid to be on it. They don't need to be seen, but they also don't hide. They live among the crowd, but are not governed by it. The only recognition that matters is from your conscience. You must know yourself before you care what others think of you. Epictetus. This line cuts through all noise. If you don't understand your values, your purpose, your core, how can you possibly interpret praise or criticism correctly? External opinions become confusing and dangerous when you are unclear inside. That's why the Stoic begins and ends with the conscience, not the crowd. The applause of the world can feel good, but it is temporary. Today's praise becomes tomorrow's silence or scorn. The Stoic understands this and doesn't bargain their integrity to secure something so unstable. The only approval that matters is the kind that lasts, and that comes from living in alignment with your principles. When your actions match your values, you can sleep in peace. When your choices reflect your truth, you don't need validation. And when your conscience is clear, you are free. The world will always shout. It will tempt you to please it, to impress it, to chase it. But the Stoic knows this chase never ends. And worse, it leads you away from yourself. True peace is not in ignoring life, but in fully awakening to it, with the wisdom to choose what deserves your attention. The Stoic is awake to the world, but anchored in the self. So live among peace. 6. Becoming tranquil is a quiet revolution. To become truly tranquil, to no longer crave attention, approval, or applause, is to stage a revolution. Not one fought with fists or fire, but with silence. Not one broadcast to the world, but unfolding invisibly within. The Stoic doesn't shout their independence, they live it. And that alone is enough to shake the foundations of a world built on insecurity, comparison, and public validation. When you no longer seek recognition, you threaten a system built on it. We live in a culture where identity is often borrowed. Status is counted in followers. Worth is measured in applause. Even goodness is sometimes performed, not practiced. In this landscape, the Stoic appears dangerous. Why? Because they don't play the game. They are not seduced by the currency of visibility. They are not baited by the need to be seen, liked, or admired. This confuses people, even angers them, because someone who doesn't seek external approval is hard to control, hard to manipulate, hard to understand. When you no longer need validation, you can't be bribed with it. When your peace comes from within, no one can take it from you. And that is a deeply unsettling, yet deeply powerful place to be. You become unpredictable to a society that expects you to follow the script. But your detachment isn't rebellion for its own sake. It's alignment. You've simply chosen a different axis of meaning, one that doesn't revolve around the crowd. Tranquility is the final frontier of inner freedom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." The Stoic journey begins with restraint, discipline, and self-examination, but its destination is deeper still, a profound, grounded peace. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself because you know yourself. You act not for applause, but because your action is right. You speak not to be heard, but because silence would be false. You endure not to be admired, but because you understand what matters. This is not passive. It is not weakness. It is sovereignty. You are no longer a product of your environment. You are its equal. You meet life not with performance, but with presence. This is the culmination of Stoicism, not a rejection of the world, but a mastery over your relationship with it. Rejecting recognition is an act of courage and a requirement of true Stoicism. Let's be honest, it is hard to walk away from the spotlight. It's hard to let go of the image, the audience, the carefully crafted persona that the world might admire. Because part of us, the insecure, unfinished part, still wants to be seen. But if you want peace, you must walk through that fire. The Stoic understands The craving for recognition is a subtle form of slavery, and giving it up is not a loss, it's a liberation. You stop asking, do they approve? You start asking, am I living in integrity? You stop chasing the echo of applause. You start listening to the still, steady rhythm of your own values. This kind of living requires courage, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up every day in 1,000